Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Essential Pedagogy Podcast. This is Steph, the Educator, and I have a treat for you. Let's just kind of go back and revisit. Like, I started this podcast because really I'm a believer and it's a ministry for me. I really developed a compassion for parents who were struggling during the pandemic and started tutoring full time for parents who were struggling at home with their children, struggling with meetings, educational meetings called art meetings and things like that. So I really got an eye opener about what parents go through, and that um, and a just a shot of invigoration for my profession because of I am a professional. I lose sight of that sometimes because of the way educators are treated or looked upon. Um, a lot of lip service is given to educators that they're really respected and everything, but actions show differently. And I'm going to talk more about that. The title of our podcast today is The Law, the Lawsuit, the Lawless, and the Lazy. Um, I think what I think about some of the recent things. Last podcast was a little bit about a snippet about the laws that were passed September 1st in the state of Texas, and some of them were concerning education and funding and things like that. Um, with funding comes accountability, as we all know. Is You cannot be blessed with funds if you do not have accountability. But in the education realm, we've been accountability is pushed on us, and we don't always have the funds to back it up. So I'm going to get more into that. We are going to be in a dilemma where we're voting for some things, and I don't know if they're going to put on the docket for voting of vouchers for private schools, but it seems very, very interesting how some things are lining up right now. Um, Vouchers, if you don't know, are what pays for charter school or any kind of public school entity, which are usually charter school, that are not part of a big conglomerate as an ISD or independent school district in the state of Texas. That's what they're called. So those are the independent school districts are the traditionally school districts that are public. We service I call it the rooter to the tutor. We service everybody. And by law, we are required to have standards and services for our students to serve the public. We have to have psychologists, nurses, diagnosticians, um, dyslexic specialists. We, by law, have to have these kinds of people available to service our students, the special ed staff, all these entities, by law, we have to be accountable for. Okay. And I'm going to say accountability a lot today. So the law, it gives us funding. And not only do we have funding, but we also have earmarks. And a lot of industries have earmarks for fundings. When you serve the public, you really have earmarks. Okay. We want to make sure that there are safeguards in place so that money is appropriated where it's supposed to be. And that is quite all right. However, it kind of limits us sometimes. to where it looks like we're spending money in an inappropriate place. And that's just how the funding rolls. If we cannot spend them, we can't uh, reappropriate monies to another area of the greatest need, then we sometimes will have a surplus in security funding and not enough in book funding. And do you see where that could be a contradiction in education? So, anyhow, there have been lawsuits. Speaking of the law, now we're down to lawsuits. There are lawsuits now that DISD has joined in, along with Frisco, Plano, not Colleyville, because I think South Lake is in some litigations of their own. They have problems already on their own, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that, but not much. I forget what other. I know Red Oak is in it. There's another Crawley. Crawley is in the lawsuit as well. And this lawsuit is towards a public service person, and that helps create the accountability, works at TEA, Texas Education Agency, where they came up with new accountability standards for um, grading school districts to see whether they're a district or a campus, or a B district or B campus, or C or F or what have you. So when people are looking for nice neighborhoods to move into, and you see that little accountability rating at the bottom of your Zillow of whether it's an A school or B school or C school, there are lots of things that come into accountability for a school. Attendance is one, which I'm going to talk about that. There's certain categories where accountability is pushed so that there is, I wouldn't say equilibrium, but to level out the playing ground and to create equity. That's what I'm looking for, the word equity, among populations of people who are traditionally underserved. Okay. So, our whole idea of creating accountability is that no one is left behind. And a lot of people know about No Child Left Behind, things like that, people slipping through the cracks. Yeah, unconscious biases, things like that. So a lot of things go into accountability and ratings for a district and a school. So there are lawsuits that are coming down from Dallas ISD, Frisco ISD, Plano, Crawley, and Red Oak, where they are saying that it was the date of the release of accountability was released too late or notified to the school districts and not in a timely manner, and it goes against some kind of statute of where it's the law that you have to be given a good amount of time to prepare for the new accountabilities, right? The new standards. Because now in the new standards, what's happening is why some of these school districts are in an uproar is because um, instead of looking at a district as a whole, they are looking at, well, how many kids does this campus have? And this is how much of a percentage that it is of this district. And so that is the percentage of responsibility of accountability that school will have. It didn't used to work that way. It used to be like a big average for a school district. So when it comes to accountability rating for a district, it used to be, oh, let's just take everybody as an average. Instead, now it's like, okay, your schools are the greatest numbers. Now, where that becomes difficult is because your bigger schools are going to be your high schools, and they have many more um, uh, what categories, reporting categories that will go against them to keep them from getting a higher standard. So you may see on Zillow where um, the schools that your house or that you're looking at, their schools always, hardly ever do I see a high school's rating be higher than elementary school's rating, and that's because they have more categories to report to as far as being a successful school. They have, career readiness, military readiness, and standards where students have to leave high school either certified or college ready or career ready. And so those are some of the things that if a child is not deemed ready to to acquire some kind of career or going into college, then that is something that is accounted for at the high school and can be a ding against a high school. So hardly ever will you see high schools with an accountability rating higher. It used to be numbers, now they're letters, uh, higher than a elementary. So this is why. Okay. These lawsuits are is very interesting, and I'm going to keep track and keep watching over them. When I saw a lot of the debates over the new laws that were coming down, one vote was about not giving teachers, um, yeah, it's a point system. But I mean, there's so many things that come into play with it as far as your subs. I like. Okay, so if I'm doing teacher talk, I'm sorry. It's really when I say sub pop, um, your populations that are subcategoried by whether it's two or more races, um, Native American, special ed. So one child can affect you in different population categories. So they could be a special ed student, Native American, and at risk, right? And there's so many things that come into being considered at risk. I remember when me and my ex-husband got a divorce and I moved into an apartment, and I got an eye full of what at risk was. And if you live in an apartment, that is a category that will put your child in kind of an at-risk category for school districts. It's very interesting. And I was like, my kids ain't at risk. Shoot, they go to school every day. They get a hot breakfast. I get them to school on time, which will bring me to the lazies. But anyhow, so that's what those lawsuits are about. I'm not certain how it's going to pan out. I do believe that school districts are afraid that funding is going to be even split smaller when it comes to funding other entities other than independent school districts. Now, funding goes to charter schools from the government, and those are kind of like choice schools, and people say those are freedom schools. We have the freedom to choose what school our kids go to. A lot of people don't know when it comes to charter schools. Those charter schools, since they are smaller, they do get less funding than the ISDs because, of course, they're bigger. They have much more responsibility, and the bigger your responsibility, the more money you expect to have and be able to manage, and the more responsibility you have, and the things that you have to do. So with charter schools, they are smaller. They do not have to have the same standards of independent school districts. So a lot of times you'll find that in their desperation, especially now post pandemic, they do not have certified teachers teaching students. And if you don't know what that means, is that you do not have a professional teacher who have taken a test for their professional responsibilities as a educator and in the content area that they teach. They did not have to take a content test to get their job or to keep it at the charter schools. You do have some teachers at charter schools who are um, certified, but not all. Now, in this pandemic climate, you're going to find more non certified teachers in the classroom everywhere. But in the charter schools, the percentage is much greater than at the ISDs. And then the ISDs always give you a window. You cannot stay employed at a independent school district forever and ever, amen, without being certified. They expect for you to get certification, whether that be 12 months, the 9 months or 12 months that you're going to be employed there, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever that is. The school districts have their standards of when they're going to have you be compliant to being a professional certified teacher. Now, with charter schools, that is not necessarily the case. They do not have to have the training, the pedagogical training. It's the essential pedagogy, the science of teaching, and addressing all modalities of learning. These people are not necessarily educated or I hate to use the word train when it comes to teachers because it's like training a dog. You hit it on the nose, you better do it right. But professional development, they don't have the professional development it takes in order to execute on lessons in education as a whole. And I've worked at a charter school before, so I've seen all the shenanigans. That's all I got to say about that. I work at an ISD now. Um, and I can tell you guys some stories about why I chose to work at a charter school because I was mad at ISDs. But look, I'm telling you, public schools, ISDs are going to be the best bet without doing deep vetting of a school, your best bet in educating your child. Your local schools are your best bet for educating your child effectively. Yes, my kids did attend public school. They did. They attended public school. I started my youngest son in a private school. And this is another topic. So my oldest son is in a doctoral program in Oklahoma, and I'm so proud of him. He is about to be 25 in October, and we're going to celebrate his birthday. I he We had some difficulties in the private school. My ex-husband and I, we lived in a suburb of Dallas that has become very, pretty affluent, and so um, we were paying tuition, and there was not equity in the classroom. We'll just say that. So we pulled him out and we put him in a local public school that our house address was geared towards. And so he started at that school at third grade, and he went to the local middle school that fed into that, and the high school. And so he did very well. He went to um, a academic undergrad school, and he's doing well. And so my youngest son too. My youngest son went to the same schools, and he's at Collin College right now as a sophomore. Anyhow, Half of it has to do with public schools and the schooling that you choose to be in and the area you try choose to be in. But the other half, I mean, your child could be very successful at a D school, a C school. And a lot of our AB schools with the new accountability are going to be C schools because of just the structure of how the accountability is done. And this is why we have the lawsuits, because school districts are scared. Their accountabilities are going to be lower. They caught a peak of what they would how they would match up with the scores of last year, and they're very disheartened about it. Yes, we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do, and that leads me to the lawless. And I call look, I'm just doing the catchy title here. But the lawless are the kids. They ain't got nobody's accountability. They just go to school and have a good time. And some of that I understand, and I want them to have a good time and not have a lot of pressure and stress, right? We don't want our children to be stressed to death. But what we have done because of the pandemic and because of people and their emotions, um, we have, I don't know if anybody, and please share with me if anybody out there in the state of Texas has experienced their child being held back in the last 3 years because of the pandemic. I don't think that has happened. And please speak more about how folks increase accountability at school. Is PTA meetings or something else? Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, we'll talk about that, Nick. Oh, hi, Nick. Oh, anyhow, but the lawless are the children. The children are, I say they're lawless because what I'm seeing in the middle school is that we're trying to have playtime. And I've always been a academic growth teacher. Now, I can tell you I've mellowed out a whole lot since I started teaching, but I still am more concerned about the development of a child's academic and emotional needs in the classroom. Um, so I'm finding that the students are having a very lackadaisical, um, I come to school to play kind of attitude. And I teach middle school. I teach middle school science, seventh grade science. And I have a lot of students who are struggle readers. They are struggling to read on grade level. So then when we give um, uh, our nationally graded type test called MAPS test. It's on a national standards, and they do this all over the country where they have digital tests that none of the school districts have really a part in making, but they're made off of national standards. And so we can see what our children's scores are, uh, like a RIT score compared to other people, other seventh graders in the nation or other sixth graders in the nation. And so we chart kids' growth in between STAR tests on those kinds of tests. So, anyway, um, I have lots of children who are struggling to just read some of these things on the test that do not have documented um, services, such as special ed services, 504 services that are legally bound. So um, I'm finding that I have a lot of strugglers, a lot of low readers. Um, and I usually do my seating chart on abilities on reading. And I'm finding that children are in denial about their own skill sets. Parents are in denial about their skill sets, and um, when children aren't achieving the um, desired scores that parents and lawmakers and everybody in society want them to make, then it is the educator's fault. When in actuality, we have a lot of lawless and lazy people. So the lawless are the children. They have no accountability because they've been pushed up from, I guess, what, fourth, fifth grade. And now I have seventh graders. So they've been just pushed up, pushed up, pushed up because, oh, the pandemic has been hard on everybody. Emotions, emotions. Now we have new types of standards that's come down the pipe, you know, and not really the standards really hasn't changed as much as how the standards are accounted for, like the percentage. Like a school district is rated on how many students is at a particular school, is what the percentage of their piece of the percentage goes towards the district. So your larger schools, which are your more struggling schools, which is high school, goes is has a bigger slice of the pie when it comes to accountability, because people are tired of children not being college or career ready. I get it. I understand. But then we have the lawless, and then we have the lazies. And when I say lazies, I'm trying to be very respectful. I've been a single co-parent. I like to say single co-parent because when you say single parent, people feel like um, you do not have another parent that is putting in effort to make sure your children are successful. Well, I had an ex-husband. He was not head of my household, but he was a co-parent to my children. So I just want to put it out there that I understand how hard it is being the head of your household if you're single, even if you have two parents. Like, I had some clients and they were a two-parent household and they struggled with two children. It's just hard. Raising children are hard. Doing it in a manner that will help them be more successful, because I don't like to say right or wrong. There's a spectrum of how you can raise children. But I also feel like if you can't get your child to school on time, that we got to figure it out and stop being lazy and putting it on somebody else that is not being successful. I understand that I may be a little bit more disciplined than the average person, because I made it my business to get up at 5 a.m., 4:45 a.m. in order to cook a hot breakfast for my children, then get my son to football, my high school son to football practice by 6:30, and then my middle school son that I drove them. They did not take a bus. I drove them because I couldn't afford to continue to stay in their particular school district that they were in. So I got a job in their school district so they wouldn't get kicked out for not being in their school zone. And I got up and I drove both children to school and got myself to work on time every day. So what I'm saying, what I'm saying is I am uh, I am having conversations with parents who say they do not want their children to be labeled, do not want the biases to come against their children, but then they can't get their children to school at 8:10 in the morning every day. They're at school at 8:30. And for the longest time, I was very perplexed. I'm talking about a particular student about, and I have, and then this is a trend though. It's not just one. This is a trend, uh, where it's 15 minutes into the class. Now I have 45-minute class. It's 15 minutes into the class before he gets his pencil in his hand. He ready to work and all this. When the bell rings, I have students engaged in learning when they first come in. I have something ready for them to do. It takes this little boy 15 to 20 minutes to do to get ready to learn. He got his things all over the place. He can't get his pencil, don't know where his pencil is. Don't Oh, he lost his shoe. It's in the hallway. It's something every day. And all I can say is I don't know what the chaos at home is, but it gotta be from home because we have the structure here at school. Things start at a certain time. You go to lunch at a certain time. You got to be here. You got to be there. It's a structure. So this disorganized manner got to be from home. Not clean, ears dirty, uh, dirty fingernails, sometimes smelly, sometimes don't have uh, his teeth brushed. And I'm finding that across the board, we have parents that can't take their kids to athletics. When I have a conversation, hey, I think athletics might, well, I don't know if he wants to do it. Look, when my children expressed interest in something and they went so far as to sign up and audition or try out for something, they were not allowed to give up on that thing just because. They just weren't. Because I wasn't allowed to give up on parenthood. I just wasn't going to do that. And that's the answer I gave to my children when they wanted to give up something prematurely. My children, my youngest son was like, I want to give up band, I want to quit. And I was like, you know what? Um, I'm not feeling band anymore. After I paid for the instrument, I said, I don't feel like getting up in the morning and cooking you breakfast, but I do it every day. Sometimes we have to do something we don't feel like doing. And as a parent, and that you brought these children into this world, you lazies need to get up. You lazies need to look in their backpack. You lazies need to ask them, oh, not just how was school today, but let me see your notebook today. I know Miss Powell gives you a notebook so you guys do working, and I want to see what the work you've done in it. Stop doing that. Stop being lazy and not knowing how school is managed, how school is structured. You're going to have to understand that the ins and out of schools. You're going to have to understand that when we're at work, we don't just sit around waiting for you to come in and demand to speak to us. We are busy every minute of the day, and you need to make an appointment just like you do at a doctor's office, at a dentist's office, even at the Apple store. They want you to have an appointment. Why would you think? Why would you think that we're not busy to the point where you could just walk in and demand whatever you want to demand? Not that we don't think what you are desiring or want to talk about is important, because going to the doctor is important, going to the dentist is important. However, you have to make time for it. You sometimes have to take off work for it. So please value your children's education, to educate yourself about the structure of education, to figure out what you can do to support educators. And that even means by voting. You need to show that you value educators by putting your money where your mouth is, by putting your vote where your heart is. If you have a heart for teacher, you need to um, show it and not just say it, because I feel like it's very empty when we have these struggles. And I anticipate the struggles are going to get worse if our financial pie is split even more to include private sector schools to get funding publicly. If that happens, then we're going to be even stretched thinner when it comes to funding, when it comes to paying for professionals, teachers, counselors, nurses, people like that to serve in um, our public schools. Public schools is overwhelmingly responsible for professions that you see every day, and that includes doctors, that includes attorneys, that includes judges, congressmen, presidents. Y'all, they didn't all go to private school. Public school matters. And that's just what I wanted to let you guys know, that please, please make a bigger effort in your child's education. If we have accountability, then I feel like parents need to have accountability too. I feel like children need to have accountability too. And I feel like that is not happening. In fact, not just feel, I know it is not happening. The heat is only coming down on educators, and it's not a sustainable system for it to be that way. It's not. And it will be something that the system will break due to pressure. And I don't want to see it that way, because I value education, because I came from public education. My children went through public education. I feel like the majority of people who are going to be useful in our society are going to come from public education. So, guys, I know that it was kind of a rant today, but I really hope you took something away from this that is going to inspire you. If you're not a parent, but to really do some studying about voting when it comes to maybe increasing teacher retirement pay. Do you know how many teachers work 35, 40 years? They're not doing it just because they love children, because you can volunteer with children in your church, you can volunteer with children at school. You don't have to stay in there and have a full load of teaching for 40 years. um, but people do it because they don't have enough money to survive after your standard time in teaching. So guys, I would love for you guys to consider, and I think it's coming up in, is it November, where we're going to be voting for increase in teacher retirement. They haven't had one, I believe, in about 15 or 20 years. And I believe that we need to honor our educators, because literally there are some who work until they die. They do not get to reap the benefits of um, retirement, of resting. I want to just put that on your heart, and I hope that you become a little bit more educated so that you can show. And those people who are watching this, I know you have a heart for people and you have a heart for education. So I just want you to, the next time you hear somebody complaining about school and things like that, that you just remind them that it is a very, very stressed system, and it's a very, very hard job. And if it wasn't hard, then everybody'd still be at home doing virtual learning. But that's not happening. And Chat GPT will not be teaching your children anytime soon. Just letting you know. No amount of um, AI is going to replace a good educator, because a good educator actually looks at a person's face and finds out whether they're having a good day, finds out whether they should approach a topic or not. or can make you smile and really give content a chance to penetrate your heart. So I just wanted to just share that with you guys, and I appreciate you guys watching. And I will have my YouTube channel up soon. I'm still doing the preparation work for it, but once it's up, I'm going to have lots of shows on it. I'm going to have at least 20 shows on it, and I'm going to be interactive with you guys even after the show. So I'm excited about that, and it's coming soon. So I just wanted to thank you guys for watching and paying attention. And until the next time, um, have compassion for yourself so that you can have compassion for others. Bye.